Now, just before we take a look at how major equities markets fared today, let's start with Nigeria's power sector. As Nigeria continues in the sale of power assets as part of extensive reforms to light up Africa's second largest economy, I'm joined in the studio to discuss the key challenges that lie ahead with Akinyemi Osinubi. He's a director at Riverbank Capital. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's start off with the news making the rounds at the moment. Now, we hear 7 out of 11 companies that submitted, quotations for the Kaduna Distribution Company, and 4 out of 9 companies that bid for the Afam Power Generating Company have scaled through the technical evaluation of the National Council of Privatization. Now, what's next?
Well, just like the previous process, they have about a month or two to pass commercial evaluations and actually announce the winning bids. If you remember, the Kaduna and Afam assets were excised from part of the initial process due to some irregularities. The bids were submitted in April. These companies that were mentioned have passed the technical evaluation. Commercial evaluation has begun. And in about a month, we should hear an announcement as to both the winning bids and the reserve bidders. So they'll join the rest of the assets that the government says will be handed over come July this year.
Oh, well, I guess I would say some progress, on that scale. But now, one thing, most people may underestimate, rather, is the share of the changes that are needed, okay, in the power sector. And now, how much is this going to cost? Like, can you, share some thoughts on what needs to be done and how much this is going to cost?
Okay, well, on the acquisition side, the government announced about $2.4 billion in terms of sales proceeds that it's expecting. So the bidders need to raise about $2.5 billion generally to acquire those assets. In terms of refurbishment, each of those generating plants are going to spend on average $200 to $300 million to refurbish the generating plants. Most of them were given performance targets, 5-year performance targets of about 400 megawatts each. The assets are mostly moribund, so there needs to be extensive renewal and junking and an installation of essentially new equipment. And for the distribution companies, you see similar investments in lines, in transformers and meters and things like that. So the acquisition is going to cost, again, like about $2.5 billion. The refurbishments over a 5-year period may cost another $2 to $3 billion. So that's quite substantive.
Yeah, it is. Now, did you think it would right foreign investors? I mean, because I have heard that many of the power plants that the government, that we own at the moment are not really investor friendly. And there's also news that it's difficult to really value the assets because even after due diligence, it's a bit of a gamble. Owing to the lack of properly audited assets. What's the situation at the moment?
Well, the bidders were provided with audit reports, but they didn't get a chance to do any sort of extensive due diligence. So you had to assume the worst going in there. Some of the power plants that we had opportunity to visit showed that you are going to need to change the turbines, change the boilers, change the water cooling systems, and in some cases even change the gas feeds, the scrubbers, because the quality of gas coming in isn't very good. You have to invest in scrubbers to take out oxygen, water and some of impurities. And then you need to refurbish the evacuation, the transmission evacuation facility on all those plants. But I think the investors had to assume the worst going in there. Since they've been announced as bidders, they've probably had a chance to go in there one more time. It's not going to change the acquisition price, but you're going to have to get a better handle on the refurbishment cost. Some of the clients we advised during the process assumed the worst, and that's how we came up with the numbers, the $200 million you might need to spend per generating asset.
I guess a tough one there for them. But then you just mentioned something very important, the gas plants. Now, there's a fact that most of the power plants in Nigeria depend on gas supply, and this is pretty unstable. Now, if you say they went in there, preparing for the worst, this is something glaring, staring everyone in the face. How do they really plan to manage this? Well,
gas supply has been unstable. Even the NIPP power plants that were commissioned could not get sufficient gas to run their turbines. Unfortunately, you have a situation where the government needs to have some integrated development plan. So in order to get sufficient gas for the pipelines, you need to invest in gas wells, in gas processing plants, and in gas pipelines to all the new plants coming up. Well, the existing plants that are being sold already have gas supply, but the pipelines are not very stable. They need to be refurbished. But some of the gas suppliers have been proactive. For example, Seplat did a refurbishment of its Oben gas plant sometime last year. It did a tender for its gas, and he was able to spend about $5 to $10 million to do a refurbishment. But that needs to be reproduced all around the country where you have thermal plants. All right,
now, away from generating, let's take a look at the transmission companies. Reports say that, you know, we don't have the capacity to transmit all the power that will be produced. What's your take on this?
Our current transmission capacity is about 4,500 megawatts. The government has a plan to double that by the end of this year to about 9,000. We hear differing numbers as to what we're going to end up with. I don't think we're going to get to the 9,000 megawatts. We're already in May. The government just announced a loan from the African Development Bank, a $500 million loan from the African Development Bank to help the transmission network. The minister says we need about $3.4 billion to refurbish. But I think if we look at it closely, I'll probably take the numbers provided by Manitoba Hydro, the MD of Manitoba Hydro, who said we need about $1 billion annually to add maybe 3,000 to 4,000 megawatts to the grid. So if we're in May, even if we're able to tap into the $500 million loan from African Development Bank, we might get to 5,000 to 6,000 megawatts. So nothing near enough to evacuate the 10,000 megawatt generating targets that was set by the government. So